Brown welcoming you to the first episode of A Canal Runs Through It. This show is brought to you by the Bourne Community Engagement Committee. Our committee is tasked by the town with promoting and supporting events and programs that promote Bourne as a tourist destination, strengthen community character, encourage economic development, and highlight Bourne's unique culture and history. This show is an effort to bring visibility to these efforts and to encourage Bourne residents to approach the committee when they have an event that qualifies for support under our guidelines. If you are interested in learning more, these guidelines and application materials are available on the Town of Bourne website. Today, we'll be sitting down with former select person and Sagamore Beach resident, Judy Froman, to talk about the origins of the Bourne Community Engagement Committee, and we'll get her thoughts on the impact Bourne Community Engagement Committee grants can have on our town's economic and community life. And later on, I'll hit the road to highlight one of our town's many important cultural sites and challenge you to identify my location based on some key clues. But first, let's look back at some arts and culture happenings in our town during 2024. I hope you had an opportunity to enjoy some of these great events in 2024. Now we're looking ahead to 2025, and we're kicking off the year with former Bourne Select Person and former Bourne Community Engagement Committee member, Judy Froman. During her tenure on the Select Board, Judy was instrumental in helping to establish the Bourne Community Engagement Committee. We'll be talking with her about this process, getting her thoughts on how arts and culture impact the town's economic and community life, and exploring the direction this might take us in the future. Welcome, Judy.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Judy, the Bourne Community Engagement Committee is a relatively new committee. And I wanted to take a moment to discuss what motivated you to work so hard to see it established. Can you tell me a bit about the process involved?
Sure. Well, have you ever, I know you have because I did this with you, sat around with people and thought about, oh, what are the possibilities? Look, there's a blank canvas. There are all these different things and ideas and programs and neighborhoods and villages. You know, what can we do with that?
It's a rich tapestry, right?
Right. It was wide open. So you and I had a lot of really fun conversations about that. And both of us are people who want to take action on things. Let's not just talk about things, but let's take action on it. Is there something we could do, you know?
Yeah.
And so on the Select Board, we were at the time creating our goals through our strategic planning.
That was a big deal.
It was, it was a lot of fun because it's just like, okay, where can the town go? What can we do? And so there are several different areas, and then there were lots of supporting activities that would feed into each of those goals along the way. Plus, it also gave a little bit of a checklist to see, we're having a good, well-balanced town. And so I really, I went on the Select Board thinking, okay, I think Bourne has great possibilities. And so here we are. So I was able to have a conversation with another member of the Select Board, and we got talking about one of the strategic goals was to improve our economic development in town.
Every conversation we've all had.
Yes, and also the local comprehensive plan was underway, and so there were conversations about the villages and the heritage of the different villages, and also social media was really popular, and so I just was really struck, and I think a lot of our conversations we were really struck with, what talent there is in town. And how it's kind of under the radar,
underappreciated, I believe is the word. I think we had actually talked about the Bourne inferiority complex.
We did. Yes. And so it's like, well, hey, maybe we can open up some possibilities. So together with my colleague on the Select Board, we this person had experience on a Select Board in Wareham. And so we went and we met with their committee and got some ideas about what to do in terms of this type of committee. And they were super helpful. We asked if we could steal their information. We did. Reinvent it, right?
Right.
And so we put it together. It was actually...
putting a bylaw together isn't that easy.
It isn't.
No.
And we massaged it and cut it way back. And but there's a lot of heritage in this area. There's a lot of pride. People aren't boastful and out there and loud. But we thought, if we can
a lot of creativity.
There is.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that. And just even ideas, all kinds of ideas, because the blue economy, is something that was talked about a lot at that time too. And so we thought, well, let's look at this and see if we can put forward a bylaw, similar to what Wareham did, except I'm pretty sure we made ours shorter. Believe it or not, ours is even shorter, but it's still pretty long. There was a lot of paperwork and a lot of, creating
Review
it.
by the lawyer.
Yeah, all of that type of stuff, and all the applications and everything. So, so part of why our thinking was that it supports economic development, because when somebody drives through town, what do they think about? When somebody is visiting, what do they think about? Is there something fun to go to? Who are the people? What do they do? What do they have to offer? Is there a reason to come back here? And I have always been an advocate of people being engaged in their community. And that's the best way to channel energies, and it's the best way to share talents. And I've had a lot of experience with that, just kind of playing with that in my professional career. And so, so this was an opportunity, and we did get it, we got it passed and put it through.
I mean, I remember our conversations well, and I think I came at it with kind of an obsession with how arts and culture promote our economic development, and they're like an underappreciated resource. That was kind of how I felt about it. I'm like, here's this, it doesn't, as I think when I went to town meeting last year to talk about re-upping financially, one of the things I was trying to point out is, this is not like kumbaya stuff. This is, people spend money on food, people spend money on, they might shop in a store and buy some, doodad from whatever, wherever. But it's just like there's a lot of reason to try and get people to stop and look. And there's a lot of reason for us to enjoy what we have as well, So, and it doesn't tax the infrastructure the way that some things that you might undertake do. It's pretty simple to get going. It has business potential, so we could see a lot of possibilities. So that was great. And we decided, what year was that?
Oh, well, we probably talked about it for a year. So it was probably like 2018 and then 2019. I think it went to the town meeting for the bylaw.
I think you and I were talking about, we're not 100% sure, but we're pretty sure it was at 2019 town meeting. Now, I'm sure you all remember 2019 because it was not a banner year for our world. So I think we were very excited about it. Unfortunately, the pandemic kind of undermined the beginnings of that. And although they did do some work, the committee did get together, they did do some work, it was difficult, to really produce results and to see it truly operate the way it was envisioned, I think, right?
Yes.
So, when did you come on to the Bourne Community Engagement Committee? 2020?
No, right from the beginning.
Oh, right from the beginning. Okay, I was involved a bit later, so I came in a few years later.
I recruited a few people to be on there. There's nothing like asking somebody face to face.
But you did do some. You did. I mean, honestly, it was a good start. You made a good start during very difficult times. And I think when we sort of met after the pandemic, we kind of realized that we might want to rework some of the materials that existed because they were a little bit difficult to use, because this is very much directed at people. It's not necessarily big established events, right? That is not the goal. It's things like, even though it might be a very established place, like the Eptuxet Trading Post hosts quite a few, like I was thinking Monarch Days, we were talking about that, Daffodil Days, it's, and even Cape Cod Canal Day, but we've asked them to sort of see if they can find ways to expand what they're doing a little bit with the support that we give them.
And don't forget the Witches' Walk.
And the Witches' Walk, I love that.
That was one of my favorites.
Oh, I love the Witches' Walk. So I have so many great pictures of the Witches' Walk. But those are all very creative, and that Witches' Walk raises money for a children's charity. I can't remember the name right now, but there's a lot of creativity and energy that can go into this. And so we're trying to sort of, put a little bit of support underneath that to let people get established and then grow, hopefully. That's the goal. So realizing that the people who were getting involved or who might be involved in this are not experienced grant writers. We kind of went and tried to simplify some of the things and maybe clarify some of the guidelines. And I think actually we went and looked at some, like Plymouth, I believe was a really good guideline. Plymouth has done wonderful things. You and I, kind of went and tried to learn at a couple events that they had there. So I mean, it's been it's been interesting. I think we finally established we finalized the guidelines and now have been moving forward. We've gotten our second round of funding and we're starting to go forward.
Yeah.
So I guess the next piece of this is, what is it that you would like to see maybe us doing in the future? Where do you see this going? Do you have it's a piece of a puzzle is kind of what I think it is.
Yeah.
Pardon me, I need to sip here.
So where do I think it's going? Well, I'd like to see it have an influence on the various villages in the town of Bourne. I'd like to see more influence in the Buzzards Bay in the commercial area, so that it's more alive and there are more people and
I want a drone show over the canal. What was I, lasers? I was looking about. I have my weird ideas, but
that's what somebody had talked to me about. Talking to the Army Corps and having lights on the train bridge, and doing an event connected to that. But yeah, I mean, I'd really like to see. I think it's a great opportunity for people that we try to encourage young people to
there's
have
definitely education.
There's a lot going on in the world in the town of Bourne in terms of people with ideas and interests and young people wanting to try to do some things. So maybe it can foster some of that facilitating of the conversation, because the committee doesn't do the actual events, and that's okay, because this is the organization that gives out the money.
Right, and that's one of the reasons to do this is to sort of try to make people understand that a little bit more, because we are not the initiators, we are the facilitators, I guess, the nurturers is how I kind of think about it. And it's funny, you're mentioning the talent and educationally. I made a very specific effort to identify musicians who wrote our opening music for this show.
Yeah, nice.
And he is a high school junior, I think, 17. Amazing, just amazing work. And that, it's a shame that we don't appreciate that, So I think that's part of what we're seeing here. I personally would love to see some public art. That's something that is kind of on
getting into specifics.
A public art event of some kind. I've thought about that, but again, it's not us.
Right.
It's you.
Right.
Like what kinds of things have you dreamt of or thought that we don't notice, or that we could highlight, or there's a tourism aspect to this too. I mean, I think if we like it in the town, it's likely to be something that people in other places and other towns might like and might come to. So I think we're aware of that, and trying. We're not very good sometimes at letting people know what we're doing. That's another. I think that's another thing that the committee is kind of wrestling with, because we've talked about trying to have a clearinghouse. I think that was one of the things that we sort of came away from the Plymouth experience with, was the idea that they did a really good job. I think they focused quite a bit of time on their online presence at the beginning. And we really haven't had the skills to do that. I think we're, it's still part of the conversation for sure.
And maybe it's a call out to somebody who might want to be helpful.
There you go.
There you go. There you go.
And we've been, we're actually, the membership of the committee includes a select board person, finance committee person, some at-large members, and it's also supposed to have a Bourne Cultural Council representative. And the woman who was doing that, they've struggled a bit, and I'm assuming, just in case people aren't aware, the Bourne Cultural Council is getting money from the state and then disseminating that via an application process. And it tends to go to the school quite often, maybe the library. So it might support, like, a music event at the library, or a little, I don't know, like show at the or a field trip. I know they've done
Yeah,
field
they know
trips.
they've done that, yep.
So it's a different orientation, but it's also a piece of the puzzle, so to speak. And so I thought that was a really good composition. That is that what Wareham did too? Did they have that as well?
Yes.
There
Oh,
those
yes.
cultural councils in every town.
Yeah, and Plymouth does too. And
Yeah.
some, sometimes they really, the reason for having someone from that committee on the community engagement was to tie together those aspects, because they may hear about something but they don't have the money, or it's maybe it'd be more advantageous to work with the community engagements. I mean, one of the tricky parts is that people have to be nonprofits, but I think that there are resources of people who can volunteer
and they can
to
collaborate
help
with people
right.
who have nonprofit.
Right,
You know?
exactly. So, I think my observation and experience of the little time that I was on there, and a lot of it was during COVID, was that people could come forward and think out loud with us, and we could, we had a chance to give some feedback, and we always made sure that there was a little bit of time to do that in each meeting. If somebody just wanted to come forward with, hey, what do you think about this? It's not a formulated idea, but can you work with me? Can you talk with me about this? And I think a lot of times people don't know where to start. And so having a safe think out loud place and people who are advocating for that, for them, and advocating for, okay, this is how you go about doing this. Because my guess is that there are a lot of people who have great talents or great ideas of things to do. Like say that, it's, special benches along, around the park or something like that. But they're designer benches. Well, we could go to something like that. And if somebody doesn't know where to begin, but they have the idea, I hope that the committee would still be open to doing that.
Way.
Yeah,
I do.
So I would encourage that.
That's been my experience.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be formulated.
No, it doesn't have to be perfect. There's no judgment, basically. I mean, of course, there's judgment because we have to make choices, but no one is going to slap you down if this is not a perfect idea.
Or
maybe we can
out.
Point you towards in a different direction, or towards a resource that might help you get to the point where you come back to us. I think we're trying to be a resource in that way.
Yeah.
I think the committee itself is trying to think of itself beyond just a grant making institution, in in that we want to facilitate this activity in as many other ways as we can think of that are within the bylaws. I mean, this is part of our what do you call it, when whatever our the task that we've been given as a committee. And so we're just trying to embark on all the different avenues with just like how many people, 6 people, doing this, but it's you can have a pretty big impact if you kind of hack away at it, which is kind of what we're trying to do, I think, as a group.
And I know, like Wareham had done movies on the green and things like that. I mean, so it's not just being artistic, but if you have an idea that brings community together, that's the type of thing to think about and dream about, and not just dream about, but think out loud with people about.
Yeah, I mean, actually, I think the idea of movies in the park has come up. I just think the mechanics of it have been a little, I believe, I don't know if it ever got anywhere, but they were talking about actually having a portable screen, I think.
Yeah, you can rent them, or you can, people can.
I remember, people have ideas for the park. That park is...
Yeah, it's a blank slate.
It really is a blank slate.
Is.
A lot of things could happen there.
And we tried to do that. We had someone who did the farmers market, and he came and he thought out loud with us and that type of thing. And it turned out he didn't. He didn't need it. And but I think if there are people. It didn't really work out with that one. It lasted a little while, but there's some feedback to give.
And I don't know if they're involved with the one that's over at Sagamore Inn. That there's.
I'm aware of it.
Yeah, I am too. I thought it was actually very nice. I went there a couple times just to sort of check it out, and I didn't know if it was the same person or not. but I remember thinking that it was a really smart idea, and that one
Yeah.
seemed to be really making a go of it, so hopefully, you know, that will continue. That we
Yeah.
were not involved in that one in particular, but I think the idea was a good one, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know, sometimes it takes a while for things to take off. It's hard to, you know, you should never give up right away. That's
Right.
my experience, you know.
Or if people like to, there was one point someone came to us about painting a mural over at Patuxent on the bridge, on the underpass.
Oh, right,
Yeah.
right, yeah.
Yep. So, you
It's
know, this
there.
is, yep.
So that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a really interesting guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I would like through this show maybe to highlight some of the businesses in town too that are sort of more like the dance studios. And there's a lot of potters, there's a lot of writers, there's a lot of, you know, people who are, maybe writers is nothing against writers, but it's a less visible, you know. But the pottery studios around and, you know, things like that, it'd be really nice to, you know, for us to all be aware of these things, I think, a little bit. There are some creative
Yes.
businesses that it would be nice to highlight. So, you know, we'll see where it all goes. This is not going to happen every month. It's gonna, the goal is to do this once a quarter. But I think what I'm going to do is thank you
Yeah,
for
absolutely.
being here today. It's been so great to see you, and
Likewise.
I appreciate all your great thoughts, and I of course enjoyed our conversation, and I want to thank you for all the work that you did to get this piece going. You know, it's not easy, and it's time, folks, for me to head out, and I'm going to go enjoy some of the hidden and sometimes underappreciated cultural assets here, and I will meet you at my mystery location. So, see you there. Hey everybody! We've made it to our mystery location. It's kind of a noisy place. I'm looking east towards the canal. I'm kind of at the midpoint of Scenic Highway. If you go to Bournedale and Plymouth on a regular basis, you've probably driven by this many times and maybe just never noticed it. So this entire area is full of history, very early history of our area. It's very important to this area. And recently, the Wampanoag tribe advocated successfully to start a non-invasive mapping project that's going to use ground-penetrating radar to locate burial sites. And at Fall 24 special town meeting, Bourne voted to devote funds to doing this, and that whole thing is going to start in the spring. So, any idea where we are? I'm going to ruin it now. We're going to turn, and you can see the plaque. We're at Burying Hill. Just read that out. Site of the first meeting house for Indians in Plymouth Colony, established by Richard Bourne and Thomas Tupper soon after their settlement in Sandwich, 1637. By their influence, peace was preserved throughout the Cape during the perilous times of Indian warfare. So as I just mentioned, there's a lot going on here. There's a burial ground that will be explored, and we'll all find out more when this project is complete, which I think is pretty exciting. So I look forward to seeing you all the next time. I hope you enjoyed our visit to Burying Hill. Thank you for joining me for this first episode of A Canal Runs Through It. On behalf of myself and other members of the Bourne Community Engagement Committee, I appreciate your joining today. And until our next show, remember, life isn't about finding yourself. Life is about creating yourself. Take care and enjoy.